My brother stole my startup idea. After I helped fund his business, so I built my own empire and bought out his company publicly. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and I've always lived in my older brother's shadow. Brian was the kind of kid parents bragged about at dinner parties. Star athlete, class president, got into a fancy business school. Meanwhile, I was the quiet one, the tech nerd. The kid who fixed Wi-Fi and built websites but never got a "we're proud of you" unless it was about helping Brian. Even when I graduated with a computer science degree, the focus stayed on him. Mom actually said, "Brian's restaurant will need a website. You'll finally be useful." I laughed it off, but deep down it stung. I didn't want to be his IT guy. I had my own dreams. I'd been working on a freelance marketplace app for years. Something clean, ethical, unlike the bloated platforms out there. I hadn't launched it yet, but the prototype was solid. My little secret. Brian, of course, always asked vague questions. "What are you working on these days?" Or "still playing with your app thing?" He never showed genuine interest, just that smirk like I was playing dress-up while he ran a real business. But I still supported him. Always. When his first restaurant opened, I built his entire back-end system for free. Created his online menu, reservation app, POS integration, the works. No credit, no pay. Just a pat on the back and a "thanks, bro." Maybe that's why it hit so hard later, because I kept giving, believing family meant something. And I didn't see the betrayal coming. Looking back, the signs were there. The way he asked for access to my demo. The weird questions about user data. I chalked it up to curiosity. I didn't realize he was planning to rip me off, but I was about to find out. My app wasn't just a side project. It was the thing that gave me purpose. I started building it in college, back when I was freelancing just to survive. Every platform I used took massive cuts, buried new workers under garbage algorithms, and let clients walk all over us. I knew there had to be a better way. A system that actually prioritized trust, skill, and transparency. So I started coding at night. On buses, between classes, it became my obsession. By the time I was 26, I had a working prototype. Nothing flashy, just functional. Clean UI, verified profiles, smart contract-based payments. I had a few beta testers using it quietly. The feedback was good. Really good. One girl told me, "I made more in a week here than a month on Fiverr." That comment stuck with me. I didn't talk much about it outside my small circle. Not even with my parents, they wouldn't understand. But Brian? He always poked at it during family dinners. "Still trying to build Uber for freelancers?" He'd tease, laughing while pouring himself another glass of wine. Sometimes I'd bite back with, "Still selling overpriced pasta to college kids?" But mostly I brushed him off. He started asking me to show him around the platform. Said he had a friend who might want to invest. I was hesitant, but he was my brother. And I guess part of me still wanted his approval. So one night I gave him a walkthrough. Nothing too detailed, just enough to show him how it worked. He nodded along, asked sharp questions. "How do you verify users? What's your fee cut? Is it mobile first or desktop optimized?" I remember thinking, damn, he's actually interested. I didn't know he was memorizing everything. I didn't know that night would be the beginning of the end. 3 months after that walkthrough, Brian's restaurant hit a rough patch. He called me late one night, something he never did unless he needed something. His voice was tight. "Look, man, the landlord just raised rent again. Payroll's due Friday. I'm tapped out. I could already hear it. The guilt trip. The family obligation. The unspoken rule that I was supposed to catch him when he fell." I asked, "How bad is it?" "20 grand bad," he said. "Just a short-term loan." "I swear I'll pay you back in 2 months," I hesitated. That money was earmarked for my app, servers, marketing, maybe even a UX designer. But my mom called the next morning and added pressure. "He's your brother. He'd do the same for you. Spoiler, he wouldn't. Still, I transferred the money. No contract. No paperwork. Just a dumb, desperate belief that blood meant trust. He didn't even say thank you. Just, "You're a lifesaver. I'll make it up to you." I watched as he posted pictures a few days later. New lighting fixtures in the restaurant, a fancy espresso machine, some influencer doing a food review. No mention of financial struggle. No sign of urgency to repay me. It stung, but I told myself, let it go. Focus on your launch, so I did. I knuckled down, updated the front end, started pitching a few potential users, designed a better dashboard. Then I got a text. "Hey," Brian wrote. "Got invited to pitch at a small tech investors meetup. You should come. Would love your feedback." My stomach flipped. Why would Brian be pitching at a tech investor event? He wasn't a tech guy. He didn't have a tech product, or at least that's what I thought. What he unveiled that night made my jaw drop. The event was held at some rooftop co-working space downtown. Trendy crowd, startup energy, free kombucha and mason jars. I showed up in my usual hoodie and jeans, already feeling out of place. Brian was dressed like a tech CEO from a movie. Crisp white shirt, tailored blazer, custom slides behind him with a slick logo, Free Source. I froze. He stepped on stage like he owned the world, flashing that same smug confidence I'd seen since we were kids. He started talking. Imagine a platform where freelancers and clients actually trust each other. No shady fees. No endless disputes. Just honest, verified work. My blood ran cold. He was pitching my app, every sentence, every phrase. It was mine. My model, my ideas. He even repeated a line I used with him during the walkthrough. It's not just a gig platform, it's a trust engine. People were nodding. One investor raised his hand. "How far along is your MVP?" Brian smiled. "We've got a beta. Quiet launch. Positive feedback. We're already seeing 20% week-over-week engagement growth." He was quoting my test data. I felt like I was sinking into the floor. I wanted to stand up, scream, call him a thief, but my body wouldn't move. I just sat there stunned, while he wrapped up to a round of applause and handed out slick business cards. Afterward, he spotted me in the corner, smiled, walked up like nothing happened. "What did you think, bro?" he asked. "Killer idea, right?" I stared at him. "That's my platform." He didn't flinch. "Nah, it's inspired by your concept. But I built it. It's mine now." He clapped my shoulder, leaned in. "You had years to launch. You didn't. That's on you." I didn't say a word, but something inside me snapped. I left that event feeling like I'd been sucker punched by someone I loved. The next morning, I called my parents. I wasn't even sure what I expected. Support, maybe. At least a little outrage? I laid it all out. How Brian had taken my app idea, mirrored the structure, copied my user feedback, even used phrases from our conversations. How he was now pitching it as if he were some tech visionary while I was still grinding alone. There was silence on the other end. Then my mom said, "Well, you never officially launched it, right?" My chest tightened. "What does that have to do with—" "Sweetheart," she cut in gently. "Ideas are just ideas. Brian's making things happen. Maybe this is a sign to work together instead of competing." "Work together?" My dad chimed in next. "Your brother said you're being petty, that you're upset he moved faster. Maybe if you just trusted him more, you two could have partnered." I stared at the wall in disbelief. Petty. Partner? He stole everything, and I was being painted as jealous? The worst part? They believed him, no matter what I said. I even offered to show them emails, timestamps, code versions. My mom actually said, "Don't make this ugly. You're better than that." That line broke something in me. They weren't going to protect me. They were never going to take my side. In their eyes, Brian was the golden son, the doer. I was just the background character again. He took my idea, my momentum, my funding, and now he had my family, too, that night. I sat alone on my tiny apartment balcony, laptop in my lap, staring at the code I'd written. I was humiliated, betrayed, furious, but I wasn't done. I wasn't giving up. If he wanted a war, he picked the wrong nerd. After that call with my parents, I went completely dark. No more family dinners. No more texts. I blocked Brian on every platform. I needed distance from them, from him, from the shame that clung to me like wet clothes. But in that silence, something shifted. I stopped whining and I started working. I wiped my app clean and rebuilt everything from scratch. No old code, no remnants he could claim later. I wanted it airtight, faster, smarter, untraceable. I stayed up until sunrise for days, fueled by cheap coffee and the kind of rage that becomes momentum. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing, but behind the scenes, I was building my empire. A few weeks in, I posted anonymously on a dev forum asking for feedback on my idea. A guy named Jay responded. Sharp as hell, UX wizard. We clicked immediately. After a few calls, we partnered up 50-50. He didn't care about my baggage, just the build. We worked in sync like we'd known each other for years. To fund the project, I took a night shift job at a warehouse. It sucked, but it paid just enough to cover server costs and food. Every break, I was back on my phone, debugging, reading user feedback, tweaking code. We decided on a new name, Verity Work, because truth mattered. Because I wasn't just building an app anymore, I was building proof of who I was, of what I could do without anyone's help. No flashy launch, no influencer campaigns, just a beta site, a waiting list, and a quiet post in a freelancer subreddit. Then we waited. At first, crickets. Then one freelancer messaged, "This feels different, cleaner, I trust it." That one message made my whole body buzz. Brian had the spotlight, but I had something better. Real momentum. Those early days of Verity Work were brutal, but they felt alive. I'd finish my warehouse shift at 3 a.m., muscles aching, then sit in my freezing apartment coding until the sun came up. My room smelled like instant noodles and burnt coffee. My back hurt from the cheap plastic chair. I hadn't seen another human being in days, but I wasn't sad anymore. I was locked in. Jay and I ran everything: design, testing, customer support, outreach. We manually approved every freelancer who signed up, did 10-minute video verifications, and used custom tools to flag suspicious behavior. No bots, no scams. No BS. Word of mouth began to spread, slowly, quietly. A TikTok creator found us and made a short review. Finally, a freelancing app that doesn't make you feel like trash. It got 30K views overnight. Suddenly, we had over 600 people on our wait list. I remember lying on the floor, phone in hand, staring at that number. I actually cried. Just for a second. Not out of sadness, but because for the first time in years, something that belonged to me was working. Meanwhile, I kept tabs on Brian's project. FreeSource had flashy branding and press mentions, but cracks were forming. Users complained on forums about payment delays. There were Reddit threads accusing them of fake reviews. I stayed silent, but I read everything. I didn't want revenge posts. I wanted proof of survival. Jay kept saying, "We don't compete with noise. We compete with trust," so we leaned in. We built tools that let freelancers leave ratings for clients, not just the other way around. We added optional dispute mediation and a clean profit-sharing dashboard. One freelancer emailed me and said, "You guys make me feel like a professional, not a commodity." That one line, it gave me more fuel than any funding ever could. We launched quietly on a random Thursday at 11:48 p.m., no countdown, no PR stunt. Just an email to our waitlist and a soft announcement on a few niche freelancer forums. The website was still a bit rough, some buttons off-center, a few awkward UI bugs, but it worked, and more importantly, people showed up. Within 48 hours, we had over 300 users create full profiles. Verified, vetted, real people. A handful of jobs were already posted. Jay and I watched it unfold like proud parents, pinging each other every time someone completed a project or rated a client 5 stars. I didn't post anything about it publicly, but someone else did. A freelancer tweeted, "New platform called Verity Work just helped me land a client without a middleman sucking 30% from my rate." Big W. That tweet got traction, enough for Brian to notice. 2 days later, I got a text from an old mutual friend. "Bro, Brian just roasted your app on Instagram Live." I didn't want to watch it, but I did. There he was, Brian, holding a glass of wine, fake laughing with some tech bros. He pulled up VerityWorks' site and said, "Is this Craigslist for nerds? Looks like a high school project." The chat was full of laughing emojis. He didn't mention me by name, but he didn't have to. I wanted to be angry. But mostly, I just felt calm. Because while he mocked us for aesthetics, we were functioning. While he chased clout, we were building loyalty. One of our users commented on that live stream later. "Funny, because Verity Work actually pays me on time. That was better than any comeback I could have scripted." Brian had an audience, but I had a movement, and it was only just beginning. What started as a whisper turned into a roar. By the end of the second month, Verity Work had 5,000 active users and nearly 300 new signups per week, all organic. No ads, no influencers. Just people telling people, "Hey, this platform actually gives a damn." We introduced a new feature called Client Karma, a transparent score that showed how clients treated freelancers, payment speed, professionalism, fairness. That one update? It changed everything. Suddenly, we weren't chasing clients, they were chasing us. Brian must have felt the shift because FreeSource started copying our features. Poorly. They launched their own version of client ratings, but it was glitchy, easily manipulated, and full of fake reviews. Meanwhile, our users were DMing me things like, "Left FreeSource. Your platform actually respects my time. Can't believe I was working for scraps over there. I never replied to those messages as the founder. I kept my identity anonymous. I didn't want credit yet. I wanted results." Jay and I reinvested everything we earned. We hired our first support rep, then a community manager, then a part-time back-end dev. We weren't just growing, we were becoming real. We hit $40,000 in revenue by month 4. It wasn't flashy, but it was ours. And the more we built, the more people noticed. Investors, journalists, even startup podcasts. One blog titled their review, "The Freelance Platform That's Quietly Crushing the Giants." Brian's company was mentioned in the same article. As an example of what not to do, I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. I just worked harder. Because every time I saw a freelancer win on our platform, every time someone said, "I finally got paid what I'm worth." I remembered that night Brian stole from me, and I smiled. Because karma doesn't need a microphone, it just needs time. The invitation came in a sleek, black envelope with silver foil lettering. FreeSource Gala, celebrating innovation in the freelance economy. At first, I thought it was a joke. Why would Brian invite me after everything? But then I realized he didn't know how far I'd come. In his head, I was still the loser brother in a hoodie, tinkering with code in a crappy apartment. This was his victory lap, and he wanted me there to watch. I almost didn't go. But something in me needed to, so I showed up, alone, no suit, just my usual black button-down, dark jeans. The event was held at a glassy rooftop venue with hanging Edison bulbs, neon signs, and a live jazz band playing some overproduced fusion garbage. Every person there looked like a LinkedIn profile, and there was Brian, on stage, drink in hand, doing what he did best, talking. Success, he said, isn't just about ideas. It's about execution. Anyone can think. But I build, the crowd laughed. Then he added, "My little brother used to talk about building an app. Never launched. Guess that's why I'm up here, and he's..." Wherever he is, my ears rang. People clapped. Some even looked around, trying to spot the brother. I stayed silent in the back, staring at the skyline through the floor-to-ceiling windows, fingers gripping a glass of untouched soda. It was humiliating, and yet, in the strangest way, it was freeing, because while he stood there puffing his chest, I had already surpassed him. Our revenue had doubled last month. We were closing in on a 6-figure deal with a remote hiring agency, and not a single person in that room knew. Brian thought he'd crushed me. But in that moment, at his party, during his speech, I realized something powerful. He had no idea he was standing on borrowed time. 2 weeks after that gala, I sat in a minimalist conference room in San Francisco, glass walls, matte black chairs, and a view that looked like it belonged in a stock photo. Across from me were 2 partners from a major venture capital firm, people Brian would have sold a kidney to meet, and they were pitching me. "We've been watching Verity work," one of them said. "Your retention numbers are unheard of. You built this with 0 outside funding?" I nodded. "Just grit and insomnia." They laughed, but I was dead serious. They offered a $5 million investment at a $20 million valuation. It felt surreal. My brain couldn't even compute the zeros at first, but I stayed calm. I'd been humiliated in silence. I'd built in the shadows. Now I was negotiating from power. Still, I wasn't ready to go public yet. Not while Brian still strutted around like he owned the game, so I took a different approach. We structured a deal quietly. I brought on legal counsel. We locked in trademarks, patents, copyrights. We reorganized Verity Work as a holding company and started building a portfolio. One of our users, an HR director from a mid-sized tech firm, reached out. "I'd love to use your platform internally," she said. "Could we license it?" We drew up a white label version in 30 days and signed our first B2B deal. Meanwhile, I kept my name off everything. No press, no interviews, no pictures, just clean surgical growth. But I was watching Brian's company closely. FreeSource had plateaued. Their metrics were stalling. Investors were getting nervous. The flashy design didn't hide the clunky back end. And users? They were quietly migrating. I didn't need to destroy Brian's company. It was already rotting from the inside. All I had to do was wait.
And make my move when the time was right. It happened on a random Tuesday. I was in the middle of a late-night sprint.
Fixing a bug in the VerityWork mobile dashboard, when my phone buzzed with a message from a number I hadn't saved, but instantly recognized. Brian, are you behind VerityWork? My fingers hovered over the keyboard. My heart didn't race. I didn't panic, I just stared at the screen. I'd wondered how long it would take. How long before he'd start putting the puzzle pieces together? Freelancers leaving his platform, investors backing out, the blog articles comparing him unfavorably to the new kid on the block. All while this ghost competitor outpaced him in silence, I replied with one word, yes. Seconds later, my phone rang. I let it ring 3 times before answering. No emotion in my voice. Just, hey, what the hell is this? He snapped. You're hiding behind some shadow brand while tanking my business? I leaned back in my chair. You mean the business you built off my idea? That was years ago. You didn't even have a plan. I brought it to life. No, Brian, I said calmly. You stole it. I just rebuilt it better. He went quiet. Then came the threats. I'll sue. I'll call every investor. I'll tell everyone. You're welcome to try, I cut in. Everything I've built is original. I have timestamps, code audits, legal paperwork, IP protection. You won't win. He was breathing hard, frustrated, cornered. You're gonna regret this, he hissed. I already did, I said, for years. Then I hung up. I stared at the screen for a moment longer, then shut my phone off. There it was, the confrontation I used to fantasize about. But it didn't feel dramatic or triumphant. It felt done, like a door quietly closing behind me. 3 months after that call, I got an email from a private equity group we'd worked with on a white label project. Subject line, free source asset opportunity. Interested? At first I thought it was spam, but when I opened it, I sat up straighter in my chair. The message was short, clinical, almost sterile. We've been approached to assist with an acquisition or strategic partnership. FreeSource's board is looking to offload assets due to declining performance. Would VerityWork Holdings be interested in acquiring IP, platform architecture, or user base? I read it 3 times before it sank in. Brian's company was bleeding, and his investors were ready to jump ship. The poetic irony wasn't lost on me. He had stolen my blueprint, built a hollow empire with it, mocked me publicly, and now he was selling it off. I called Jay. You're not going to believe this, I said. He laughed when I told him. Let's buy it. We'll scrap the tech, keep the mailing list, and redirect the traffic to VerityWork. So that's what we did. We submitted a clean offer under a shell company, just to keep things anonymous at first. 2 weeks later, the board accepted. Desperate to recoup losses, they didn't ask many questions. I bought the entire platform for less than what he owed me from that original $20K loan, and then, in the acquisition paperwork, I added one final clause, that all data migration would redirect to VerityWorks' homepage with a small banner reading, "Looking for something better? You're in the right place." I didn't tell Brian. I waited. Waited until the redirection went live. Waited until users saw the message. Waited until I knew he'd find out. Not from me, but from the internet. And then I sat back, cracked a cold drink, and watched the traffic numbers rise. He built his kingdom on my foundation. And now, I owned the whole damn castle. I waited exactly 72 hours after the acquisition. Was finalized before making my move. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my name with grace. I opened up LinkedIn, a platform I hadn't used since college, and typed out a post. 3 years ago, I had a dream to build a freelancing platform that actually respected freelancers. That dream was mocked, ignored, and even stolen. I kept building anyway. Yesterday, we acquired a company that once humiliated me. VerityWork now owns and absorbs FreeSource. No names, just facts. Let your work speak louder than your ego. I clicked post and shut the laptop. I didn't check notifications for hours. I went for a walk, got a burger, sat in the park like nothing had changed. When I finally opened the app again, the post had gone viral, over 30,000 likes, thousands of comments. This is how you do revenge with class. Proof that quiet people build empires. Some of y'all never had your family steal from you, and it shows. Some industry folks even guessed the backstory. A few called out Brian directly in the comments, tagging him, asking awkward questions. He deleted his LinkedIn profile within 2 days. I never said his name once. I didn't have to. People connected the dots. Journalists reached out for interviews. Podcast hosts offered slots. Even a Netflix documentary producer DM'd me about a tech betrayal story. I ignored most of them because none of this was about fame. It never was. It was about the quiet satisfaction of knowing I didn't just survive what he did. I turned it into something bigger than both of us. And now, while he faded into the background, I was just getting started. The phone calls started the same night the LinkedIn post went viral. First my mom, then my dad, then a chain of aunts, cousins, even a random uncle I hadn't spoken to in 5 years. My mom's voice cracked as soon as I picked up. Why would you do this to your brother? You're tearing this family apart. I almost laughed. I was tearing the family apart. I stayed quiet. Let her rant. She went on and on about how Brian was embarrassed, devastated, publicly humiliated. She even said, "He's not eating, sweetheart. He feels like the world turned on him," I replied calmly. Now imagine how I felt when you all turned on me. Silence. Then, "But you could have handled this privately." "No," I said. "He didn't steal from me privately. He mocked me publicly. I just responded with facts." My dad got on the line, tried to play peacemaker. "Son, this isn't how family works. You don't ruin your own blood." That hit me hard, because for years I thought the same thing. That family meant unconditional loyalty, even when it meant swallowing pain. Even when it meant letting someone walk all over you just because you shared DNA. But I've learned something. Family isn't just blood, it's respect. And when that's gone, what's left? "I'm not coming to Thanksgiving," I said. "I need space, and I won't be guilt-tripped for choosing peace over proximity." That was the last real conversation I had with any of them. I didn't block them. I just stopped picking up. I kept my circle small. Jay, my team, a few loyal friends, people who saw me, not just who they expected me to be. I lost a family that year, but I gained a spine, and I never once looked back. It's been 2 years since the acquisition. VerityWork is now a global platform, serving over 200,000 freelancers in 18 countries. We've signed 5 major B2B licensing deals. Our customer support team works across 5 time zones. We offer health stipends, mental wellness benefits, and profit sharing for top freelancers. We became what I dreamed of, and more. I bought my first home last year. Nothing wild, just quiet, minimal, modern. A place that's mine. Sometimes I walk through it barefoot with coffee in hand, remembering the nights I coded on milk crates, the way my hands used to tremble opening bills I couldn't pay, the taste of ramen 3 meals a day. Now I run a company I own, with a team I trust serving a mission I believe in. Brian, he disappeared from the tech scene. No social media, no ventures, no bounce-back attempt. Last I heard, he moved to another city and got into real estate. A few mutual acquaintances say he's different now. I wouldn't know. I'm not angry anymore. Honestly, I wish him peace. I really do. Because I learned that revenge isn't about destroying someone else. It's about not letting them destroy you. It's about choosing to rise without screaming for validation. About working in silence and letting your results do the talking. I don't think I would have built any of this without what he did. That betrayal burned away all my hesitation, all my fear of being small. He lit the match, but I built the fire. And I'll leave you with this. If someone steals your idea, mocks your ambition, or tells you that you'll never make it, don't yell, don't chase them. Just build so well they have to watch you win from behind a locked screen. Because success isn't the loudest voice in the room. It's the one that can finally afford to stay silent.